Right now, deep in the quiet of space, something is moving, something NASA is keeping a close eye on, and they're getting ready for the worst. This isn't a story from a science fiction movie, it's a real, unprecedented event that could completely change how we understand the universe. Before we dive into this topic, make sure to subscribe and comment where in the world you're watching from. It began with something so subtle that at first no one even noticed. A quiet ripple in space, a disturbance in the magnetic field surrounding Earth. It wasn't the kind of signal that would make headlines or set off alarms. No, this was more like a whisper that only the most trained ears could hear. But for NASA, it was the kind of whisper that demanded attention. Astrophysicists, initially baffled by the anomaly, began to look closer, realizing that this disturbance was anything but ordinary. The magnetic field, a force that normally hums along predictably, had fluctuated just slightly, enough to hint at something much more significant. At first, scientists thought it was just a minor event, something easily dismissed, a ripple caused by solar winds or minor geomagnetic activity. But when they overlaid the disturbance with the tracked path of 3 IATLAS, something clicked. The disturbance wasn't random, it matched the trajectory of the interstellar object. It was as if something in space, something far beyond our understanding, had subtly reached out and touched the Earth's very foundation. The ripple, the faint shift in the magnetic field, wasn't a coincidence. It was a sign, one that no one could ignore. NASA's quiet preparations began here, with this small, almost imperceptible disturbance. While the world went about its day unaware, the scientific community was forced to confront a chilling realization. The unknown had entered our solar system, and it was about to show us just how little we understood about the universe. This quiet warning, this subtle anomaly, set the stage for what could be one of the most significant events in human history, a mystery that even the brightest minds on Earth weren't ready to solve. And in the silence of space, we were closer to something extraordinary than anyone could have imagined. The sun, usually a predictable source of energy, responded in a way that defied everything we thought we knew about solar behavior. NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory, a key instrument in tracking the sun's activity, had been monitoring the usual flares, eruptions, and quiet periods, but 2 weeks ago something appeared on the data that didn't fit any pattern. At first glance, it looked like a normal solar event, a minor fluctuation in solar plasma, a brief flare, maybe a ripple from a distant cosmic event. But then the unexpected happened. Instead of the usual turbulence that dissipates in hours or days, this event lingered, growing in intensity, then suddenly snapping back as if pulled by some unseen force. The data was unlike anything solar physicists had seen before. What was even more baffling was that the disturbance appeared to line up perfectly with the trajectory of 3 IATLAS, the mysterious interstellar object now drifting through our solar system. As the object moved closer, it seemed to create a ripple effect in the solar plasma, almost as if it were interacting with the sun's very energy field. This wasn't just another flare or solar wind. The sun wasn't reacting the way it usually did when it encountered cosmic particles. This was something different, something new. Solar physicists scrambled for an explanation. Could it be an unprecedented cosmic event, a unique alignment between our sun and a visitor from another star? But no theory seemed to fit. The sun had never behaved this way, not in the history of space observation. For the first time, the sun was reacting to something outside its usual influence, something far beyond our understanding. And with each passing day, as 3 IATLAS continued its path, the mystery deepened. Was this the first sign of something much larger at play, something that could change the course of our understanding of the universe? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain. The sun was speaking in a language we didn't know how to decipher. 3 IATLAS appeared suddenly, like a shadow slipping quietly through the fabric of space, unnoticed at first by the casual observer. To the casual eye, it was just another comet, another stray rock from the vast expanse beyond our solar system. But for those who knew what to look for, this was no ordinary visitor. Its trajectory, its behavior, everything about it screamed that something was off. Its path was far too straight, far too deliberate for a cosmic body drifting through the void. Most objects from the distant stars arrive with a sort of erratic grace, pulled and pushed by the gravitational forces of the sun and planets. But not 3 IATLAS. It was moving with an intentionality that defied logic. The first anomaly appeared when astronomers tried to to track its speed. Typically, objects that drift into our solar system from deep space are slowed by the sun's gravity, their velocity dropping as they approach the inner planets. But IATLAS wasn't slowing down. It was speeding up, almost as if it were being propelled by an unseen force, and as the object passed through our system, its movements became even more erratic. It would abruptly change direction by fractions of a degree without any apparent reason. No gravitational force should have been capable of doing that, not from a body this small. The laws of physics, as we understand them, simply couldn't explain its behavior. NASA was forced to confront the possibility that this was something far more than a cosmic wanderer. The data was irrefutable. 3E Atlas was not following any known pattern of motion. Its trajectory didn't match that of any comet or asteroid catalogued in history. It seemed as though it was being driven by something we couldn't detect, something beyond our current comprehension. This was no longer just a scientific curiosity, it was a challenge to everything we knew about the universe. And the more data NASA gathered, the clearer it became. The mystery of 3I Atlas was only just beginning, and it was a riddle we were nowhere near solving. As the mystery of 3I Atlas deepened, NASA's once methodical approach shifted. The unexpected behavior of the object, its strange trajectory, its inexplicable movement, had left the agency with no choice but to confront the unthinkable. For years, NASA had prepared simulations for events that were, in their own way, predictable. Asteroid impacts, solar flares, even rogue comets, all things that could be modeled with relative certainty. But 3E Atlas was different. The more data they collected, the more it became clear. This object wasn't following any pattern in the known universe. And for the first time, NASA's internal team found themselves running simulations not just to understand the object, but to prepare for the worst possible outcome. In conference rooms, the phrase worst-case scenario began to circulate, whispered by scientists who had never before needed to use those words. These were the same experts who had dealt with cosmic threats, spacecraft malfunctions, and the unthinkable, yet here they were, grappling with an unknown force. The simulations weren't focused on what could happen if 3 IATLAS simply passed by. No, they were focused on the unquantifiable. What if the object's behavior wasn't just strange, it was dangerous? What if the forces driving its erratic movement could have catastrophic consequences, like the destabilization of the solar system or worse, a disruption of space-time itself? For NASA to begin planning for something this uncertain was a huge step. They weren't just modeling impacts anymore. They were preparing for a reality where the known laws of physics no longer applied. Even the most experienced scientists were on edge. The equations they had relied on for decades no longer held. The situation was so unprecedented that there was no framework to fit it into. The very act of planning for the worst, without any clear understanding of what that worst might look like, spoke volumes. This wasn't just a scientific curiosity. This was a real threat, one that NASA had to prepare for in every way imaginable. And as the simulations ran, there was no certainty about what the final outcome might be. The unknown forces behind 3 IATLAS had made even the brightest minds uneasy. And for the first time, NASA found themselves in uncharted territory. What if the energy inside 3 IATLAS is not nuclear? Not chemical, but something beyond our comprehension. As the object drifted silently through the solar system, scientists began to piece together a theory that was as unsettling as it was baffling. Early on, it became clear that 3 IATLAS was no ordinary object. It wasn't just its erratic path or the unexplained shifts in direction, it was the energy it seemed to emit, or more accurately, the energy that seemed to emanate from it without any visible signature. Normally, when an object in space moves or interacts with other forces, energy is released in predictable ways. You see heat, radiation, or at the very least, a comet's tail, a visible byproduct of the interaction between a body and its environment. But with 3 IATLAS, there were no such signs. Instead, something entirely different seemed to be happening. The object appeared to be emitting energy, yet there was no thermal signature to accompany it. No radiation, no heat, no disruption in the surrounding space. It was as if the object was operating on some form of energy that defied the laws of physics as we understand them. Some scientists suggested the possibility of an internal energy source, one that wasn't chemical or nuclear, but something entirely foreign, a kind of energy that couldn't be measured with our current tools or theories. This wasn't just a curiosity to study in a lab. This anomaly was a direct challenge to everything we know about the universe. If 3I Atlas was indeed producing energy in a way that defied our understanding, what did that mean for the rest of space? What if this force could be harnessed? Or worse, what if it could affect our own energy systems, our satellites, or even the fundamental fabric of our reality? The implications were far-reaching, and the scientists grappling with these questions couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. They weren't just dealing with a mysterious object from another star, they were confronting the possibility that the very rules of the cosmos were about to be rewritten. Could the sun itself be reacting to an object from another star? The evidence suggests something far stranger than we thought. As 3I Atlas continued its silent journey through the solar system, it wasn't just the scientists who were paying attention. The sun, our ever-present source of energy and life, seemed to take notice as well. What began as a strange ripple in the solar plasma, something minor and easily ignored, soon evolved into a pattern that could no longer be dismissed. It wasn't just a passive byproduct of the interstellar visitor's presence. This was something that suggested an active interaction between the object and the sun itself. In an unprecedented turn, NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory detected an unusual phenomenon, a brief, subtle synchronization between the object and the sun's activity. This wasn't like any other solar event. Normally, the sun's behavior is driven by its internal processes, solar flares, magnetic storms, and solar wind, all of which can be tracked and predicted with relative accuracy. But this time, something different was happening. The sun seemed to respond to the presence of 3I Atlas as if it were resonating with it, vibrating in ways that suggested a deeper connection between the two. It was as though the object was emitting some form of energy that was, in turn, affecting the sun's own magnetic field, creating an almost symbiotic relationship between the two. This synchronization, if that's even the right word for it, has never been observed before. The idea that an object from another star could somehow interact with the sun in this way raises far more questions than answers. Was this a fluke, or was there something inherent in 3I Atlas that could actually influence the sun's behavior? Could the object possess a type of energy or force that is capable of reaching across light years and affecting even the most powerful force in our solar system? The implications are staggering. If the sun's reaction was just the beginning, what could happen as the object draws closer, and how might this unprecedented interaction alter the solar system's balance? What we once believed about our star may need to be rewritten, and the arrival of 3I Atlas may just be the first chapter in a story that challenges everything we know about the universe. The threat isn't just theoretical, it's real, and every possible outcome has a ripple effect that could change the world. As NASA's simulations grew more urgent, the potential consequences of 3I Atlas's behavior began to emerge in stark detail. At the forefront of their worst-case models was the terrifying possibility of hypervolatile fragmentation. If the object were to break apart, even a small fracture could send debris flying through the solar system at unimaginable speeds, creating invisible shrapnel that could tear through satellites, space stations, and possibly even Earth's atmosphere. A burst of cosmic debris from 3I Atlas could overwhelm any defenses we have in place, wreaking havoc on communications, navigation systems, and critical infrastructure. What was once a distant cosmic event could suddenly become a global disaster. But the threat didn't end there. Another possibility, one that was even more unsettling, was the idea that 3I Atlas could trigger solar disturbances. As the object continued its mysterious interaction with the sun, there was a growing concern that it might provoke a massive solar event, something on the scale of a coronal mass ejection or CME, but far more powerful. A CME of that magnitude triggered by an external object could unleash a devastating electromagnetic pulse across the Earth, knocking out power grids, scrambling satellite signals, and leaving entire regions without communication or power for months. A solar storm of this magnitude could send humanity back to the technological dark ages, and there were even more theories, each one more disturbing than the last. Could 3I IATLAS be altering the very fabric of space-time, creating ripples that would affect Earth's gravitational pull? Could its presence be the precursor to something far more catastrophic, something that would affect not just technology, but the environment itself? As the simulations continued to unfold, NASA's models didn't just prepare for the possibility of a fragmented object or a solar event. They began to anticipate the unthinkable. Whatever 3 IATLAS was, it was clear that its arrival would not just challenge our understanding of space, it would test the limits of our ability to survive. Imagine hearing a pulse, a heartbeat, from deep space. It's the kind of signal that makes even the most seasoned scientists pause and question everything. That's exactly what happened when, just days after the initial disturbance, 3 IATLAS emitted a faint and subtle pulse, so quiet, so seemingly insignificant, that at first it was written off as nothing more than noise, a random blip, an anomaly that could easily be dismissed by any astronomer accustomed to the unpredictable nature of space. But this wasn't just any noise. Something about the frequency, the pattern, sent a ripple of unease through the scientific community. When the data came in, early algorithms from NASA and other space agencies dismissed it. They had been burned by false readings before, and this looked like just another one of those rare, inconsequential glitches. But as more observatories independently confirmed the signal, the weight of the situation became undeniable. The pulse wasn't random, it had a regularity, a resonance that suggested it was intentional, like a message being transmitted through the cosmos. No comet, asteroid, or celestial body had ever emitted such a signal, at least not in recorded history. This was different. This was deliberate, calculated, and most importantly, it wasn't something that could be explained by known physical forces. The faint pulse came and went, almost imperceptible, and for a while there was nothing. No flare, no radiation spike, no signs of activity from 3 IATLAS that would explain the pulse. It was as if the object itself was emitting something from within, something more profound than anyone could have predicted. The implications were staggering. It wasn't just the object moving through space anymore. It was interacting with the very fabric of the universe, sending out signals that defied all logic. The first pulse was a warning, a sign that 3 IATLAS wasn't just another visitor from the stars, but something that operated on a frequency humanity had yet to understand. And as the pulse reverberated through the void, it left behind a lingering question. What else could this object be capable of? The pulse was just the beginning. While the world remains oblivious, NASA's simulations are working overtime, preparing for the unimaginable. The first few signs of 3 IATLAS's unusual behavior may have seemed like anomalies to the public, but behind closed doors, NASA was already rethinking everything. The faint pulse, the strange solar responses, the object's erratic movements, all of it pointed to something far more dangerous than anyone had initially realized. As the data poured in, NASA's top experts shifted their focus from observation to preparation. It wasn't just about studying the object anymore, it was about ensuring humanity was ready for whatever it might bring. In darkened rooms filled with hums of machines and the clicking of keyboards, NASA's team began running full-scale simulations. But these weren't the typical models designed for a routine space event. They were worst-case scenario drills, scenarios that imagined global communication blackouts, widespread satellite malfunctions, and, most chilling of all, potential power grid disruptions. What if 3 IATLAS triggered a massive solar storm, the likes of which we haven't seen since the 1859 Carrington event? What if the object's mysterious energy somehow interfered with our delicate technological infrastructure, sending shockwaves through global systems? The simulations were terrifying in their scope. Teams modeled everything from communication systems crashing into silence to entire cities plunging into darkness as power grids failed. What was once theoretical was now within the realm of possibility. There was no blueprint for this. The force behind 3 IATLAS seemed so unpredictable, so alien, that NASA had to prepare for every conceivable scenario. Each model, each simulation was built with a single, undeniable truth in mind. The unknown was the only certainty. And while the world went about its daily life, unaware of the quiet storm brewing in the depths of space, NASA's preparations were intensifying. They weren't just bracing for a cosmic visitor, they were preparing for a world that might never be the same again. What if we're just seeing the beginning? Could the universe be offering us a glimpse of something far beyond our reach? As 3 IATLAS drifts further into our solar system, we are left with more questions than answers. Each new discovery, each inexplicable phenomenon only deepens the mystery of this interstellar visitor. The strange pulses, the solar reactions, the erratic behavior, none of it fits into the neat categories of science we have spent centuries refining. The truth is, we are standing at the edge of an unknown, and we have only begun to understand what lies ahead. NASA's simulations, their contingency plans, their endless calculations, they're all built on a foundation of uncertainty. For the first time in history, the space agency is preparing not for something we can predict, but for something that might completely upend the very laws of physics. The fact that 3 IATLAS is here, moving through our solar system, is not just a cosmic event. It is a message, or perhaps even a warning, from the depths of space. It asks us to reconsider what we know, to acknowledge that there are forces out there beyond our comprehension, forces that we have yet to grasp. As we look to the future, there's a sobering realization. We may be witnessing the start of something far greater than we can imagine. It's not just about understanding 3 IATLAS anymore, it's about what it represents. A shift in our understanding of the universe, a challenge to everything we thought we knew. The unknowns are vast, and the implications are staggering. As we continue to study and prepare, we must also accept that perhaps for the first time, we are not in control of what happens next. The universe is vast, and we are merely beginning to scratch the surface. The final question remains: are we ready for what comes next? As we continue to unravel the mystery of 3 IATLAS, the possibilities ahead remain endless. We are on the brink of discovering something truly extraordinary. But what do you think? Is this just the beginning of something greater, or is it merely a cosmic anomaly? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more updates as we explore the unknown together.